In today's episode of the Pathfund Presents podcast, I have an interesting guest here with me today. I'm with Michele Redmon, and she's the marketing director of WeatherFlow. And today we're going to be, learning what WeatherFlow is all about, who they're serving, and what the interesting set of products is that they're actually having, created. Latest being Tempest, and we're going to be learning quite a bit about that today. So, Michele, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
Awesome, really good. Give us a 360 overview. What is WeatherFlow all about?
So we actually recently had a name change. So we're now WeatherFlow Tempest. And what we do is we're a weather technology company, and our mission is really to help mitigate and manage the impact of weather on business and daily life. And we do that through products and services that gather accurate neighborhood level weather data. And it uses that information processed with sophisticated modeling to produce a very accurate forecast. And to give you kind of an example of how that works, we designed the Tempest weather station, which is a home weather station, and it collects environmental data from your backyard. And our Nearcast technology uses applied machine learning and in-house forecast modeling to process the data. So it creates a dramatically better weather forecast for your location. And in turn, this kind of starts a virtuous cycle where we get a better set of products to predict and protect around extreme weather events. Basically, the more tempests that are out there, the more data we have, and the better our forecasting.
So is it a crowdsourcing solution in the end? So the more, like you say, the more stations are there, the better it becomes, or what's the overall approach?
Yeah, essentially that data is being fed into our internal system, which we have called Nearcast technology, which is in-house forecasting, in-house weather modeling. It all happens within our own team, which is definitely a key differentiator with the Tempest versus other weather stations on the market, which is why we call it a weather system. It's a little change, but
no, it makes sense. And is that primarily sort of like a B2C approach, like individuals buying that, or is it really a B2B angle where companies are spreading it over their campuses? And
so it is a little bit of both. It's the main target is the consumer. But we do have a strong B2B component there. And we have a phenomenal business development manager who handles that. And it originally, so the original parent company is called WFN Holdings. And they formed in 2000, and they now have like the largest industrial grade weather observing network in the world. And several founders from that company started WeatherFlow Tempest to sort of focus on the consumer angle, but also to kind of scale up the business plan that was started at WFN. So that's how the company sort of came into existence.
Makes sense. And from the B2B angle, just for people to get an understanding, like what types of businesses would you be, working with?
Yeah, so we work with utility co-ops. We work with theme parks, outdoor sports event managers. I know Tempest was used in a couple of cool training applications for the Tokyo Olympics, which is really cool. So it's kind of surprising just the number of different applications there is for Tempest. We've had fire departments installing Tempest at their fire stations. So it's a pretty diverse list of B2B customers.
I see. And what would you say as a marketer, obviously, how people learning about WeatherFlow Tempest is relevant. What do you think? What does their journey look like? What are the client acquisition channels that you guys are leveraging, once on the B2C and once on the B2B side?
Yeah, so word of mouth obviously drives a lot of business, and I've listened to a couple of different podcasts, so I feel like I might be a broken record because that seems to be a common response. But it is, the main way that people learn about your product is they share it with friends and family. We have a really engaged and passionate user base on both social media and on our forum, and we have actively encouraged that open dialogue. So our development team, our meteorologists, even our CTO occasionally will reply to comments and suggestions from people. So it's spread very quickly that way. We also have a very robust digital marketing strategy and PR strategy that funnels these different audiences into various workflows where we're able to kind of educate them on our products and services. We also have a monthly newsletter that goes out. It's called the Tempest Weather Newsletter. But that's really cool because it combines timely weather news with if you own a Tempest, you'll get your monthly summary and things like that. So that's always a cool thing that people like to share with friends and family. And we've also prioritized technology partnerships. So that allows us to reach new audiences through these partners' audiences and their customer base.
And what would you say, which role does the website play? I mean, you mentioned a lot of word of mouth, newsletter, partnerships, but how do you think about the website?
The website is obviously our number one tool for educating consumers and businesses on, what Tempest can do for them. We have a lot of case studies up there where we talk about our B2B partnerships. Unfortunately, we can't talk about all of them, which is kind of a bummer, but we do use that as a tool. And then our B2B director that I had mentioned, he does just a great job getting a partnership in place and then kind of using that to seek out similar organizations or companies and then, telling them the benefits of using Tempest, and then it kind of trickles down from there.
I see. And are you involved very deeply with the website? Because I always love to ask like marketers because typically marketers are super critical with the website, right? It's never finished, it's never done. It always evolves. Like where would you see sort of the major strength of the website versus where do you see some room for improvement?
So as you say, we are very critical. So I would say as a weakness, to start with that, it is, I think, a little bit tricky when you have multiple different product offerings and multiple different services that include B2B and B2C. It's a very different message for both of those groups. So I think that has been a challenge. It's also a challenge just because, as I said, we had a name change. The company that our founders started with and then, built WeatherFlow Tempest from that, had at one point shared that website. So there's been a lot of complications as far as really making sure the message is clear and the message that we want to convey. So that's been a challenge. I would say as a strength, it's a constant, there's constant improvements, there's constant upgrades, there's, constant, hey, someone looked at this page and they pointed out that this doesn't really make sense. And it was kind of confusing to them. And so then how can we improve this? So it's just constant refining and improving. We've had multiple upgrades in the last year. New pages are pretty much a constant, just making sure that we have enough assets for various audiences to really make sure they're informed as to the features that would benefit them the most, instead of just throwing everything at them. Trying to really personalize that content has been a challenge, but one that we've definitely improved significantly over the last year.
Sounds like you guys have put a lot of effort and thought into exactly that, what you were just describing. I'm curious because, I mean, you've been in various marketing roles, and that can be, now specific to WeatherFlow or WeatherFlow Tempest or, any other positions prior. How do you usually try to go about figuring out why people do or do not converge on the website, right? I mean, there's, various conversion points on the website for WeatherFlow Tempest, for B2B, for B2C. What's maybe some methodologies, tools, approaches that you've picked up over your career that can be helpful?
Yeah, so we have surveys on several of our landing pages that basically are very simple. They just say, did you find what you need on this page? If not, what could have been done differently? What were you looking for? What were you hoping to find here? And so we use that to kind of edit our content based on that feedback. But it's basically a process of targeting these, lost leads, if you will, or these leads that don't convert, and putting them in the correct workflow where they might get an email that says a very brief survey, similar to the landing page survey. We noticed you were looking, but you didn't buy, and kind of getting their feedback that way. And people are actually surprisingly willing to share that information, even if they didn't convert. And it might be, it's interesting. Sometimes I'll think, oh, it must be the content, we should edit this. And it might just be, I read this review that said I can't use this on a boat. And I have a boat and that's what I was using it for. So I didn't get it. So it's just a matter of literally asking the person who is there why they may have left.
Yep, makes a whole lot of sense, and I hope a lot of marketers who are listening in can just pick up on this. Sometimes it's just a straightforward way to to get to the best insights. Very cool. I want to switch gears a little bit and get to know you a little bit better as a marketer. There's a lot of content out there for marketing. There is blogs, reports. You have it. How do you filter from all the noise? Like, what's the places where you like to read?
As far as marketing news in general.
Yep, for your own development as a marketer.
Yeah, so we use HubSpot for our CRM, and that is, to me, a pretty great resource as far as educational tools. Things change so quickly. We just had that iOS update that kind of rattled the whole marketing industry. And so just kind of reading not just HubSpot articles, but various articles aimed at marketers, just discussing how to, work around this sort of lack of transparency now with seeing some of your website leads and conversions and not really being able to tell where they're coming from anymore. So there's been these big kind of pivotal moments in the marketing industry where you have to really dig in and look at the news and look at as many assets as you can. And a lot of the news at first regarding that was just very panicked, which isn't very helpful. So I look more towards, I don't need to know, what's going on. I need to know how to work around it. So just a variety of sources.
I mean, you mentioned obviously the iOS updates and looking into 2022 and tell me if it's not relevant yet in your case. Just curious because it has been bubbling up in the podcast quite a bit. Sort of the cookieless future is in front of the door. Like Chrome is going to remove third-party cookies, I think by mid-end 2022. Is that something that you as a marketer already have to like sort of think about? Is that something that is a little bit in the future? What's your take on that?
Yeah, so it's something that's concerning, but I think it's almost a little bit exciting because it forces you to kind of change your priorities a little bit, perhaps change your strategy a little bit. We've, as an industry, relied so heavily on analytics and tracking and learning behaviors to see if they'll like our ads or like our product and things like that. And so it's, in a way, it's kind of nice because it's sort of bringing back the human element of marketing, which is more messaging focused and less heavily relying on technology to, tell us exactly what to do.
Interesting. Very cool. Let's switch gears. I want to, since we're slowly actually getting to the end of the interview, would love to bring up some rapid fire questions that we love to bring in at the end of the interview. You ready for those?
I'm ready.
Awesome. What's the last book you read?
Okay, so I don't know the author of this book, and it is completely not marketing related, but it was a book called Severance, and it was great. I definitely recommend it.
What's one single thing your company is focused on the most at the moment?
At the moment, I think our focus has been, again, kind of really refining our messaging. It is always kind of difficult in the science and technology industry to make compelling messaging that is engaging for customers that are, on a wide spectrum of understanding. So we have, audience, our core audience is what we call weather geeks, which are, hobbyists, they're scientists, they're meteorologists, they understand the technology, and you don't really have to explain that much to them. They just kind of get it and they're excited about it. And now, this is 3 years after we've launched, and we are now kind of graduating to the next level of customer that needs a lot more education. They may not understand, if they don't have a weather station, they may not understand that their weather app has a lot of gaps in accuracy and coverage. So trying to explain that to them, trying to explain why we're different than other, weather technology companies out there, that is always a big challenge. And that's something that we are definitely prioritizing right now.
Mm-hmm. If there would be no boundaries in tech, right? So everything is possible. What's the one thing you would fix for your role?
Oh gosh, that's a really good question. I mean, I know I'm going to be backpedaling a little bit from like the love and hope of the human element without analytics, but but I think it would be just kind of incredible to have, someone's interests and issues they've had with other products in the past, so that we can know, okay, this person didn't like their last weather station because it didn't track lightning or whatever, and then being able to, focus our marketing messaging for that specific complaint or that specific need. Obviously, that would be, not the direction we're going right now, and probably an invasion of privacy, but it would just make my job really easy.
Cool. For the last question, I would love to do some time travel, if you would allow. Okay. Let's go back to the days of the University of North Carolina. Basically, sort of you stepping out of formal education into the world of marketing. What's the one advice you would give yourself?
Wow. Okay. So I actually got my degree in criminal psychology. So did not think I would be in marketing at that time. But I ended up starting a blog. This was probably 14 or 15 years ago, when a lot of people had blogs and they were kind of the thing to do. But I think when I first started in actual marketing, I would just take way more risks. I'm a very cautious, very anxious person. I still am, and I still struggle with this, but just take risks, do the research, take your time, but then just try it, because even if it doesn't work very well, or if it falls flat, then you have all this great intel on, this didn't work. Why didn't it work? What can we do different in the future? So I just would not have been as timid as I was, and when it came to risk taking.
You appreciate that insight and that openness. Very nice. Since we're sort of basically approaching the end of the interview, I want to give you the very last word. So if somebody would be forgetting all that we discussed about WeatherFlow Tempest, what's the one thing that they should remember?
Okay, so I would say that right now humans have access to more data than ever. We're constantly monitoring our homes, our health, and I have a heart rate monitor, and I can look at my daily strain and my recovery, and it helps inform the rest of my day as far as, am I going to work out later? Should I take it easy today? But weather forecasting and weather data has largely remained the same for a long time, and we're really changing that. So our weather station offers more data in a really easy to use format, so that people can make better decisions about energy consumption, climate change, weather-related safety, health even. So we're really changing the way that people experience and understand the weather, and it's just super exciting.
Thanks a lot for being a guest on Platform Presents.
Yeah, thank you so much.